Naomi, it's so good to have you back and to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. You're a returning guest on Law Break, so I'm very happy that you're back. And today we're going to be talking, it's a little bit continuing on the subject of the Toronto police, what's going on I mean, obviously, you've been following what was happening in the news with the big scandal about some of the Toronto police officers. We don't want to generalize at this point, but there are a few who are involved in this big corruption scandal. And the reason why I wanted to invite you back today is because you are someone who, not as a lawyer, but as a person, normal citizen, you've had an encounter and some issues with the Toronto police before this happened.
Mhm.
And I don't know if people were taking that seriously or, were maybe some people were like, well, what is she talking about? But I think now when we're seeing and we're learning about what's going on, it's kind of, validating a bit what you've been going through. So I'm going to let you tell us your experience, and then we'll talk about what you think about what we're hearing right now about this whole scandal.
Yeah, so the corruption scandal, obviously, many people in our industry have heard about it because, like, the allegations are really serious, like attempted murder, facilitating car thefts, police database intrusions
Yeah,
for like without a valid reason, and then sharing that information.
which is very scary for people to know that that's what the police or some police officers have been doing. Okay, yes.
Yeah, and like just to put it in context, like the database that they have, it has access to a lot of
I
information. And so
know.
like,
Very private
yeah,
information.
very, very private. So like if anybody's made an allegation against you and like say you don't know about it because the police are like, we're not going to do anything about
Yeah,
it, that information's in there. Or if you had any mental health interactions with the police, that
yeah,
information's in
that's
there.
true.
And if you had like stuff happen in the past and like, you're moving on with your life, that stuff is still in there.
Hmm.
Um, and so it can be like very like unsettling to be like what's in there because you can't really get access to it because they like even through privacy information requests you can get access to some of the information but not all of the information. Um so when these allegations came out, I was relieved because I was like, yes,
Yeah,
this is happening. And I've been saying this since like
I know.
2022.
Yeah.
And it's happening across jurisdictions, at least in the province of Ontario.
Hmm.
And it's happening, I don't know how wide or wide scale it's happening, but I know at least two jurisdictions are doing it. And how they're doing it, I'm not really certain. But at least I do know that they do monitor like public profiles, like social media profiles. Um, and obviously they use their databases as well.
So tell us a bit about your experience, Naomi. I know you've been talking about this, but for those who didn't follow or who are not very familiar, explain to us what happened to you.
Yeah, so I came to Toronto in July 2023 on an emergency move after I moved from Sault Ste. Marie due to a situation there involving the police. And the Toronto police were investigating the Sioux police. And they were investigating the Sioux police at that time. And so when I moved here, I was like, maybe I'll move to Toronto. I have a sister here. I have friends here.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm
you have a lot
familiar.
of colleagues here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm also familiar with Toronto. So
Yeah.
like it wasn't as scary. And at the time I was also thinking of like maybe Ottawa or somewhere else. But I was just at the time, it just was convenient to move here because I was coming here for a meeting and I had time to look for a
Yeah.
job. So then I moved here July 2023, and the investigation continues into the Sioux Police. And um, I'm living my life, and I'm still obviously experiencing trauma. Like the way I experience trauma now is like um, if people have loud voices or like yelling, like it just very like my heart almost like stops. If people touch me and I don't see them like coming at me to touch me. Like even just a simple hello, like touching my arm, like I will
And you're not
flinch.
aware. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Or if men try to come up and talk to me, or if like people just come at me and like I don't know them. Even if it's just a funny hello, like it's just starting and it's like almost throws off my whole day. So like and when I moved here, um, because of what happened in the Sioux,
hmm
I was like, there's no way it could happen down here. No way that I could be known to police because it's a city of 2 million, two or more million people, and it's a big force. And we got a lot of crime here. Got a lot of people
yeah,
need to pay attention to.
yeah.
And then I started noticing just an increased presence around me. And I was like,
Police, right? Increase police
yeah. And I was like,
presence.
yeah. And I was like, maybe this is just in my head and
hmm
it's trauma.
Yeah.
And like, I would tell friends, I would tell my counselor. And then I was like, I'm just gonna, continue to live my life. And then one day I was pulled over in January 2024, and she said I ran a stop sign. That's debatable, but whatever. Uh, what caused me concern was she's in her cruiser and she takes out her cell phone and she holds up her cell phone above her dashboard like this. And she held it up there for some time. And I was like, why is this officer holding up
Yeah, that's
using her
really
cell phone?
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because, like, as a criminal defense lawyer, I'm like, why do you need to be
Usually
taking
it's the person who's having the interaction that's taking photos or whatever, not the cop. So here
yeah.
it's the cop. Okay, that's so weird. Okay. Did
Yeah.
she
So
explain, first of all?
I
Did she,
didn't I didn't ask. I didn't ask because
but
I didn't want
she
to
didn't
escalate.
explain what she was doing, why she had her phone?
So I did a privacy request information access under the Freedom of Information legislation. And I had indicated in my access request that she was using her phone. And Toronto Police is like, you don't get access to that information because it's a personal phone. And he's like, well, you're using your personal phone during a highway traffic
Right.
stop on your public duties. Like,
Yeah.
that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
Their first explanation was she was using it to look up the highway traffic applicants. And I'm like, this is not a complicated stop. This was a one cop pull over.
What was the reason for the stop, Naomi?
She said I ran the stop sign, and then she said I failed to update my driver's license
Well, why
because my
would she?
drive.
But I mean, sorry, like, I don't think this is the type of thing she needs to look up in the high, like, right? Like, this is common. This is very common in a
Yeah,
police officer's life. Like, this is what they do almost every day.
yeah.
So, I mean, this is so weird. They're obviously not true then, if that's what they said. So she probably was recording or taking photos.
That's my suspicion.
Yeah.
But I obviously don't have any evidence of that. And then the second explanation they provided, um, no. So let's step back. So
hmm
when I get the FOI,
Yeah.
and then I look at everything, I get the body worn cam, the infrared cam, the MDT, so that's a computer in the cruiser where they like type in whatever they need to search.
Yeah.
And I noticed that my video for the in-car dash cam does not start at the same time that she's searching my license plate. So I said, "Where's the missing video for that for the plate search that she was doing?" And the plate search that she does, it looks very minor. It's 2 seconds before they cut off the video. Um, but how she's searching my plate is she's typing in my plate into her cruiser laptop. Nowhere is my car on her visible in her in like she's parked north and west, so she's facing north, and I'm down the hill and I'm coming east west. My car's not even visible to her. And there's no human possible way that she could have seen my license plate where I was. So my theory at that time was somebody sent her my plate. They were sharing my information, and obviously monitoring me in some way. And their explanation for that was, oh well, the first explanation was, well, she was doing an investigation that was unrelated to me. And then the second explanation that they provided was there's a delay in the camera. in the in-car dash camera. I hired a private investigator to call the manufacturer of the cameras
Mm-hmm.
just to say, I was like, can you ask them if there's a delay in the cameras, and if there's a delay, how does it work? Um, the we were able to elicit information that essentially, if there's a delay, they are not using the cameras correctly, and they're not setting them up correctly, and they're not using them
And
according
that
to,
opens up a whole different kind of problem for the police.
yeah. And the in-car dash cameras, like they have to be like, I don't know what the technical word is, but they have to be like docked at the end of shift. Because essentially that is the resetting
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that all the dates and times and everything's aligned. So if that doesn't happen, then there can be something that's off. But if that's not happening, then that means they're not using the cameras according to their own policy, Toronto Police. So then that's another issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have persisted, and I've been getting pushback with the privacy commissioner, been getting pushback with the law enforcement complaints commissioner, um, for about since 2024, since I did the appeal for that access request. Um, but after that,
Mm-hmm.
3 months later, my car gets stolen. That car, that that officer, I use the word tracking because that's essentially what they were doing, tracking for who knows how long and how they were doing it, is stolen from my underground parking garage. And it's not a car
Right. So
that's
it
like,
wasn't parked outside.
no, and
Mhm.
it was a 20, I think it was 2014 Honda Civic, and it had 250,000 kilometers on it. So it's not like a fancy car. Like, it was literally just a car for me to get from point A to point B when I needed it. So it's stolen.
So that's the thing. Like, you don't think it's one of these because we practice criminal defense. There are so many car thefts right now everywhere in the country, but you don't think that it was stolen as part of these common car theft incidents?
Yeah, because in comparison to other cars in the underground garage, my car is not of value in
Hmm. Right.
comparison.
Yeah, and it's true because I mean they what we've noticed in these cases is that they're targeting either the more like the newer models or like really expensive cars. So
Yeah.
and you're saying that your car wouldn't have grabbed the attention of one of these people who are stealing cars.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And then when my car was stolen, I get a call at 6 a.m. and it's a private number, and it's like, I don't remember, I think it was like a holiday, or I think I was taking a day off. Um, it might have been during the week. I just don't remember. But I remember it was 6 a.m.
Hmm.
It was a private number, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna answer that because it's either the police, and I just don't want to talk to them, and I want to take a client call.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and then they call me again at 6:30, and I was like, hey, I'll answer it because I'm a little up. And they're like, is this Naomi Sayers? And I was like, well, who's this? They're like, it's the police. And I said, well, which police? You know, like Toronto. And I said, well, I need your badge number. I need your name because you're calling me from a private number, and I'll have to verify you identity. And so he gives it to me. He's like, do you know where your car is right now? And I said, I'm not going to answer that because, like, what kind of question is that right off the hop? Like, you think I'm gonna like do something with my car?
Hmm.
Like, so just that question gave me a red flag. I said, I'm not going to answer that. And I said, why don't I go check on my car and I'll call you back if it's not there. And he's like, okay. So I go downstairs and it's not there. And he's like, oh, well, my car's gone. And then I did an FOI on that, and
Hmm.
it turns out that car, earlier in the night apparently had an interaction with a canine unit, and then I guess they were looking for the car after that, and they found the car, um, and they pursued it. The officer pursued it, and it drove off, crashed, and the guy who was driving it escaped. Um, they don't call me. They discover it at like 2 a.m. and they don't call me for like for 4 hours. So they're digging through my car, they're going through my stuff, they're running my information. A number of officers. and not even worried like where I am.
Hmm.
So did they know who was in the car? And did they know where I was? Like those are questions that I have because if you know that this car belongs to a criminal defense lawyer and they can obviously see that there's complaints involving like that they're investigating, why are you not concerned about where I am and where like am I still alive? And my internal response to that is it's because they knew where I was. They
Hmm.
knew I was at home and they knew I was sleeping. And they knew I was okay because they knew I wasn't in that car. Those are the only logical explanations why they didn't call me for 4 hours. And then during the investigation for the car theft, they're like, "Oh, do you do cocaine?" And I'm like, "Not anymore. Like that's a long time ago." And then like they seem more concerned with trying to paint me as connected to this car theft. They're like, "Do you lock your car? Where was it? Blah blah blah." I'm like, "I lock my car. Like I have trauma. Like I will press the button 10, 20
Yeah.
times."
Yeah.
Um, and then after that, I did the FOI, and apparently they found fingerprints, or they didn't find fingerprints, which is odd because there was a number. It looked like there was a number of people in the car, or it was just one, and that's how badly they went through my car, whatever they were looking for. I don't know what. Um, and they said that the license plates were that they removed from my car were still in the car. And I'm like, well, did you print those plates? I don't know. Um, and they also said that they found DNA of a known person or a person of interest. I still don't know who that is because it's not me. I don't have my DNA in the DNA bank anywhere. I'm like it's so I'm not certain who that is and why they won't tell me and like why won't they follow up on that? And they close it pretty quickly. Um, so when the car theft happened,
Hmm.
I said privately to a friend, very early on, and I said, I think they played a role in the car theft. And then as months went by, I started being more vocal about that. I said, the Toronto police facilitated my car theft. And I think people were like watching me because I document this online, right? Like, and I document it online as like a safety mechanism. Like, I'm trying to protect myself because that's the only way that I can protect myself. Um, because I can't go to the police.
Hmm. Yeah.
They think I'm crazy.
Well, yeah.
Um,
Well, that's the thing, right? Like when your issue is with the police, well, then who do you go to for protection? Which
yeah,
is really problematic.
yeah.
So
And
what
like
happens? What happens after that, Naomi?
so I continue with my my appeal for the first stop of the running the stop sign. And then in August, that cop is running my information, I think on August 13th, 2024. 3 days later, I'm pulled over by another cop, and he says, I ran the red light. And I'm like, I'm pretty certain I didn't run that red light, and I did a valid right-hand turn because there's no sign that said I couldn't. So I'm waiting for disclosure. I actually don't get disclosure from the Crown. And I write to the Crown and I say, hey, if this goes to trial, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be calling the first cop and I'm going to call the second cop. And I want their disciplinary history because this first cop was searching my information and had my license plate back in January. And then she searches it again in August. And then I get pulled over at an intersection that has a red light camera and I have no red light ticket in the mail. So I want to cross-examine them. And then they don't even tell me that they withdrew my charges, but I go check like in November 2025
And
and
they were withdrawn.
yeah,
Okay, and like that's the thing. That's what's so scary is that sometimes this whole thing when the police officers stop a person for a traffic stop, because we know that many of these traffic stops can be a ruse for something else. But it's also officers' discretion, especially when you have just one officer who says, "Hey, I'm stopping you because you didn't stop at the failed to stop at the stop sign." Like if sometimes, okay, I'm not saying that it's not true, but sometimes they can say that because they have something else that they want to investigate. So they use that as 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 an excuse to initiate a stop, a
Yeah.
traffic stop. And then you're in this situation where if this ends up going to trial, it's your word versus the cop's word. And as we know, in many cases, judges tend to believe the cops unless they're really known for having a history of, or not being very good witnesses. But they come to court with a lot of credibility. Like the
Mhm.
courts want to believe that police officers are doing the right thing and are being, and are credible and are telling the truth. But I mean, it's scary because it's left to the officer's discretion. So, and then, so now you don't have any charges right now going on with the
No.
Toronto police. Okay. And again,
Yeah.
this is with the Toronto police here that
Yeah.
we're talking about. So,
Yeah.
okay. So then we hear recently, we heard the big news about what's going on right now with the Toronto police. So what is your reaction, Naomi, when you heard that?
Well, when it came out, like,
Hmm.
because I'm documenting this online, so people are obviously watching. People who are friends, people who are not friends. And the reason I say this is because my Instagram like has like 2,500 followers, but I get views up to like 200,000
Hmm.
in a
Yeah.
month. So
Yeah.
people are watching. Um, and I get all these messages and they're like, I read the article and I immediately thought of you.
Yeah, well, I thought of you as well, because like honestly, when I read that, the first person who came to my mind is you, because I know that you've been vocal about the Toronto police and pointing out that there are issues with the way they do their work. And so that kind of validates what you're so tell us, so people are calling you, and then
Yeah, yeah, and I felt relieved.
did
Like I
people
also
tell you, just like what I'm telling you, that, I think you're right when you were saying that? Okay.
yeah, you know, I felt relieved. But like I also feel angry at the same time, right? Like
Yeah.
because people are not believing me.
Hmm.
And now you have this province-wide corruption probe that's coming.
Hmm.
And like I'm adamant that is far much worse than what we know.
Yeah.
And the scale at which they're sharing information amongst each other is probably worse than we will ever know.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little over exaggerated, but what I have seen in the news when an individual officer are talking about women and other officers. I'm like, there's a case in DC about a group of officers engaging in like degrading conversations, and like that has happened here in Toronto too as well. So I would not be surprised. It is far much worse, and I could see the Inspectorate of Policing wanting to do it in this manner to avoid, I guess, to say all these individual complaints and to sort of streamline it and make it more manageable. But also, I'm skeptical because I'm worried that they will sort of be like, because I'm saying it's going to be bad. I'm assuming it's going to be bad, but I'm thinking they're going to be like, well, you know what, it was bad, but we managed it and we were dealing it with in this way. And I think they're going to downplay it. So that's what I'm worried about, and that's what I'm like trying to just manage and trying to just anticipate what is the mandate of this probe going to be, who's going to be the person that oversees it, how are they going to investigate the boards. Because the boards know I went to the Toronto Police Board and I presented at the Toronto Police Board, and the police board chair of Toronto Police, Shelley Carroll, and the police chief were both there. And the way that the chair treated me in that presentation, if I was not a lawyer, if I was not trained and educated and able to anticipate some of the questions that she was bringing to me or comments she was bringing me or how they were going to manage it, like it probably would have been much worse for me.
Mhm.
Just for example, because they said, they initially said, you have to come in person. And I said, okay, well, I actually don't want to go in person. And then 2 weeks before, they're like, actually, you can come in person. I was like, no, you know what? I've rearranged my whole day
Yeah.
because you forced me to come in person and I have a support person. So I've also asked other people to come. So no, I'm going to go in person. And I had a, uh, I suspected that they wanted me to go on virtual because I think that they probably would have cut me off. And you can't cut a person off when you're in person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and that's how it went. Like Shelly, I was just interrupting, like she interrupted right away. She's like, "Oh, you don't hear your mic," and I'm like, "No, you can hear my mic." Whatever.
All right. And so, are you aware of other people who have also had personal experiences like that with the Toronto police, putting aside the work? I mean, obviously, we have, through our work, we see that, but are you aware of anyone else that you know, who also has had this kind? I mean, here's the scary part about this whole, I mean, everything is, you know, like disturbing for people who are hearing about this and who don't know about, how police can get into trouble this way. Um, I find the most disturbing part, it's this breach of private information, like the privacy part of them having access, as we were saying earlier, they have access to a lot of information about a lot of people. And, as a society, we're okay with that because we trust that they're keeping this information and using it only how it's supposed to be used. But now it seems like they're using it for all kinds of things, like even sometimes to assist criminals in committing crimes, which is really scary. So, I mean, what is your view on that? What do you have to say? Because I know like that's also some of the concerns that you had, that they were accessing your information and that they were looking up, your information. So, from your own experience, your personal experience, what are your thoughts here about this?
It's scary, like it's unsettling, like
Yeah.
because as a young Indigenous like girl, I've had interaction, right? And I'm a different person now, and I'm not who I was then, and I take care of myself, and um like I was saying, when I moved here, I was like, oh, I could start healing, I could start,
Yeah. New life,
living.
fresh
Yeah.
start. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Like to put that in context, like a city of 2.5 million people in with the largest municipal police force in Canada, uh is somehow focused on me when there's crime, like people with
Yeah.
guns and
Yeah.
drugs, like in Toronto. And I'm like, why are you focused on me? So it's scary, but it's also, to put it into context, like, when I discovered this information, like my anxiety went through the roof.
Hmm.
Like I was like not able to leave my home. I was like breaking down crying. And so I go back to my psychiatrist at the time and I said, I, I think I need something to help. And I also do mental health work. So like I'm familiar with like, when once a psychiatrist starts asking certain questions,
Yeah.
like I'm like, listen, I'm not crazy. This is happening. This is from the own information. Like this is the information that the police gave me. And this is what it's telling me is that they were sharing my information, running my plate before I'm visible. And she puts in her notes like that my driving may be of concern. They don't have to call CAS, CS child welfare. So she started doing all the capacity um, questions, and I was just like, this is like I can't go anywhere. I can't go to the hospital. I can't go to the police. So now there's a health record that suggests or implies that I'm experiencing delusions and psychosis because I think the police are following me. Well, what's
And well,
happening?
yeah, and actually on that point, one of the things that was revealed in the investigation is that they were putting tracking devices on people's cars, which is wild, I find
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm like, how did they get my plate? How did they know my plate? How did they know I was coming down that hill? How did they know I was coming through there? And like it's like those are all questions I have, and like that's unsettling. Like to know that police can do this and are doing it
Hmm.
and are doing it systemically in a city where you're expected to be a stranger and nobody, like that that can just dysregulate your entire being. Like I said, I didn't want to be my apartment.
Well, no, absolutely. Because I mean, their job, part of their job is to keep us safe, right? Like, usually you should feel safe when you see a police officer, not get anxiety and, like want to go see, a psychiatrist because of your fear of the police. Like, that's exactly what you're not supposed to be feeling when the police are around. But now it's like it's fear, it's anxiety, it's mistrust. You kind of don't want to talk to them or interact with them because you don't know what they're going to be doing with your information. You don't want them to have anything about you, your number, your address, because you don't know how they're going to be using that. But so it's one of the questions though right now is how big is this? Like how far reaching is it? Because we know of a few police officers. I think they mentioned seven so far, but it seems like there are a lot more who are involved, and there could be a potential for other police forces as well to be part of this corruption scandal. So I guess you think that there's more than just what we know, right?
Yeah, I do, just based on my own experience of having experienced it in Sault Ste. Marie and then
Hmm.
moving to another city,
Right.
and then having it happen in both cities. Like, how did they know I was here if they weren't watching me?
Hmm.
So, but like, how did the officers who I've never interacted with before know all to run my plate, to watch my car? And like, what else were they watching? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Well, probably your social media for sure.
And like that's wild because yes, it's public and people are like, oh, if you post it publicly, then it's up for the taking. If you're an officer and you're being paid to watch a criminal defense lawyer's social media and like, and what is she doing? Just talking about her experiences? Like, why are we wasting public dollars on that?
Right. I mean, like, because there is no ongoing investigation or any investigation about you. Like, why would they do that? Like, why are they sitting and watching us and watching what we're doing when there are other things that they can be doing?
Mm,
So, going back to this Project South thing, I mean, it's still at the very early stages, and we don't have a lot of information. There are more questions at this stage than answers.
mm,
And you did mention that you think that there's going to be more, that what we know right now is nothing, and it seems like there's still more that is to come. But what is your like? What is your sense now about like the police and their role? Like, do you think that both as a person who has had personal experiences with the police and as a lawyer who, in your work, you're also dealing a lot with the police. So, what do you think, Naomi, that has what's the impact of this on the role of the police?
I think like well, the availability of information that they have, like it's basically like they have Google, but it's like they can get whatever they want, right?
Hmm.
So their power is very broad. And they're treating their databases like Google. So um, they're they're gonna have like how are they gonna have to set up this code? Because how are they gonna know in each and every jurisdiction whether a violation was found, right? Like how are they going to know that? And because that is going to be a big undertaking, right? Like, because the only reason I discovered it was because I was like, I'm like the red flag was the cell phone, the object holding it up, and I was like, I'm going to do my FOI, like, and I knew what to ask for. So it's either they're going to have to provide some sort of systematic way to do that, or they're going to miss people who actually don't know that they had their rights violated. So it's I don't like it's very confusing at this stage.
Yeah.
Um, because they're either going to miss people who have been harmed, like like under what was it, overexplored,
Yeah. Yeah.
or or they may over capture and say, well, actually, everyone is just doing their jobs and we just need to do our jobs differently and just need to take them more seriously. So that's what I'm worried about is they're going to downplay it and they're going to be like, well, you know what, we have to do law enforcement stuff. And I think that's the scare that I have is because that's how my experiences have been framed is, oh, we're just doing our job. And then they try to explain it away through delays in cameras. Oh, I was looking up the highway traffic accidents.
Yeah,
Oh,
which we
there was a
know like are these are like bullshit excuses. Like it's not true. But how do you think it is possible at this point to restore trust in the police? Like if we get more information, and it seems like we're still going to be getting more information that is going to be unsettling and that's going to create some questions and some trust issues between members of the public, even us lawyers when we deal with the police officers as to whether we can trust them. But how do you think this trust can be restored?
um
What
I'm
would
not
you
s-
like to see happen?
um well I think anyone who has been harmed like in this manner, particularly women, because I know it happens to women and not
More,
just Indigenous
unfortunately.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah. That there needs to be an apology to those women and to let them know, like, hey, we discovered this, we're taking action, and do you want what do you need from us? Um, and because I always think back to like my incidents with the soup police and like what led me to move. And I was like, I didn't have to move. I didn't have to leave. You know, a simple solution was could have been, hey, look, there's a dedicated officer. If stuff happens again, you just have one officer that you call, or like there's this person that's, you know, um, and we said, okay, just stay away from Naomi. Like,
Yeah.
um, and they'll leave you alone unless they're doing the job, right? But that wasn't the case. And it got out of hand and I was forced to move. And I'm still like like it's a lot of loss for me. Like it's a lot of loss. And so
Because you were from there, right? Like
mhm,
that's where your family is. And yeah,
yeah. So and I think about like other women who've been through it, like women who can't move, women who can't leave their homes, women who don't know how to do a food meals and actually food test, women who can't afford a lawyer, women who can't use the legal system because they don't even know how to navigate it, women who may file a complaint and say, hey, this officer is stopping me. And how many of those complaints have they dismissed? Like,
right.
do they need to do a review of those complaints?
Well,
And how far?
but then the other problem though is that even when you moved to another city, I mean, you still had, issues with the police force in that city. So that's the thing. Like if it's a problem, a generalized problem, it's not just a Toronto police problem, but that these kind of issues, uh, whether it's the trust or even the violence, the aggression that they show, or like the criminality, if this is across the board and it's everywhere in the province or maybe also in other jurisdictions outside of Ontario, I mean, it's scary from a person's perspective because again, I mean, we want to trust the police. We want to know that their job here is to provide, technically, it's safety and security. That's why we have them in our cities. But if we don't have that feeling that we're safe when they're around, I mean, that's pretty problematic. And what can be done here, you think? Is it training? Is it putting aside that, okay, they need to recognize that there was a problem and apologize for all the people who suffered. But really moving forward, um, is it proper training? And do you think it's a training issue or do you think it's something else?
Um, I'm not really sure training can assist with that because like both men and women officers were doing it to me.
Hmm.
So I'm not really certain like training can do that, but I think definitely um the police need to have a reality check that like when a woman comes forward with these types of complaints that uh sh you know she's probably you know coming from a sense of reality because women just don't make these up that I'm being stalked by an officer.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to make it up and
Yeah.
I'm like and I don't know where to go and I'm scared and I'm worried and um, I just want, you know, so I'm not sure how you do this. I don't think training can help. I think we definitely have to, like the inspectorate said, maybe look at screening procedures for who they hire, and maybe look at that process. And I've actually been involved in that process. I've had taught students who went on to be police officers, and I've been called by people who do the screening. Um, and so I have a little bit of insight onto that side. And I don't know what they do, but it's a phone call to some people, and then they probably do some background checks. But maybe they definitely need to look at just a little bit more deeper, like um, I'm not sure. Like, they go far back in criminal records of our clients from when they were youth. So why are
Hmm.
you not going far back to the records of the officers you hired? Like, what were they like when you were a younger person, right?
Yeah. And honestly, I don't really know how it works, but there has to be a way also to limit their access to people's information, like outside of work. I understand that when they're working on a case and they want to do some background checks, that's fine. I mean, that's part of their job. And it's fine if it's related to work. But what was disturbing here is that they were doing this for other reasons that had nothing to do with their work. And that's, like, how do you control that? That's a big issue as well. Like, how do you make sure that they are not accessing people's information when, you know, it's for personal reasons that they're doing that? That has nothing to do with work. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I don't know if you have any insight.
I know the devices that they have set up, like the automatic license plate readers. So I think they're definitely gonna have to set up a process to audit um all like the searches that they have been doing. And so like maybe like we could be like, okay, we're not going to audit the automatic license plate readers because those are automatic and we know that those aren't um, you know of concern, but maybe we'll audit when something's manually typed in every couple of weeks and what was the reason why they were using the cruiser laptop to type this information in on the
Yeah.
road. And there's different ways they do searches too, like they can video it in. There's like they they could call there's like offline queries like for CPICs and that comes like directly from the ICMP. So like it's like when I say it's gonna be huge, it's gonna be a lot bigger
Yeah.
because they were doing offline queries of me in at least I think 2021 when I was at
Hmm.
CSIP Marine. So it goes back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, so Naomi, right now though, are you okay, or is there anything ongoing now with the Toronto police, or so far so good?
So that's a scary thought, right? So like, I say I don't know because I don't
Yeah.
know, right? Because I don't know how they were following me. I don't know
Yeah.
how they were tracking me. And could they be tracking me? I don't know, right? And do I know if they're following me? I don't know because I don't see their cars around me, but as you know, they do have unmarked cruisers and like I obviously they were tracking my car. So I don't know. Um, and that's the scary part.
Yeah.
And I try to be a rational person and I try to say like talk to myself and be like, I'm okay. I'm as safe as I can be right now because I'm in my home and nobody's here, my door is locked. Um, but like earlier this week, like I had a strange man knock on my door and I'm like, immediately I saw it like, oh my God. I'm now being followed to my home. But then I like, I'm like, I have to like constantly tell myself I'm okay. Like it's when I say it's a hard job, it is a hard job because I'm managing myself and I'm trying to manage my life. Like I'm trying to manage my work, my life, my relationship with people, me. So I'm okay, as okay I can be, and
Yeah.
that's why I run and go to the gym.
Well, that's the most important thing. So I'm glad that you're okay and that, at least for now, there doesn't seem to be anything going on, at least to your knowledge. But like you said, that's a really good point. You don't know, right? I mean, you don't know what they're doing or if they're up to anything. But anyways, it's something definitely that we're going to have to continue and see because there's for sure going to be more information coming out in the future about this whole um, uh, corruption scandal, and we'll see what happens. I'll be happy to invite you again, and we can follow up and see.
Yeah,
And we'll see. Time will tell, I guess, on this issue. But
yeah,
thank you so much, Naomi, for taking the time today to chat with me and to share your experience. And like I think that now you got some kind of it's redemption. You know.
yeah, 100%.
Yes. Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.